Okay, I think I'm live. This is gonna be a quick one today, guys. I am gonna be talking about something a little bit controversial. No surprises there. me and controversial tend to go along together. But yeah, like I said the other day, it's just something that once again I've noticed so much recently in the chronic illness community and in the disability community, and it needs to be addressed because we're only hurting ourselves, really. And not just ourselves, but by behaving this way, we are really hindering people outside of our community to understand us, because we're not doing ourselves any favors. So I'll explain what this is all about. I follow several groups. I'm part of a few groups and communities that sort of provide support for people with some form of chronic illness, right? Hi, Taylor. So, within these groups, obviously conversations go around, people talk about their experiences, whatnot, which is great. That's what those support groups are there for. It stops being a support group when the only thing that you do is moaning and never changing anything. And I know that sounds like a horrible thing to say, but it is the truth. We do have chronic illnesses, we do have disabilities, we do have problems. Everyone has problems at the end of the day. But if you don't do anything to help yourself, it's almost like you're giving up on you. You know what I mean? Like, particularly in the community that I am in with fibromyalgia and whatnot, because we get so little support from doctors and stuff like that, and our illness is so misunderstood. You're literally at the mercy of whatever you can do to help yourself the vast majority of the time. So you kind of have to take it seriously. I know, unfortunately, a lot of people, not just with fibromyalgia, with other chronic illnesses, that have just developed not necessarily a dependency on medications, which happens and whatnot, but I'm not talking about that today. I'm not talking about medication addiction. I'm talking about the fact that they're kind of just building this whole narrative about their chronic illness and their problems, but not taking active actions to help themselves, and instead they're just using their illness as a crutch to neglect certain aspects of their life. I mean, that's simple as that. And a lot of the time, through this neglect comes more harm and more damage. I'll put some examples. I know a few people, not just in the chronic illness community, but also in the mental health community, that are on medication, that are on strict diets, that are, in some hardcore care plans for their own well-being, who will actively get out of their way to consume products that are going to interfere with them getting better, or that are going to cause them to go in a spiral that is never going to help them out. And they do this knowing that that's going to have a negative effect. That's self-destruction. That's harmful stuff. That's not right. And I don't mean that's not right because you don't have the right to do whatever you want with your body. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is, if you're going to bother taking all of your medications and actually taking care of yourself that way, why destroy that process by then doing something that interferes with all of that? Think about how much it took to fight to get those meds. Think about all of the people who don't get access to those meds. Like, you're literally feeding into the stereotype that because you're on medication, or because you're doing this or you're doing that, you can just do whatever. It becomes a very damaging reputation for us, particularly when we're trying to clean it up. It's kind of a weird relationship how a lot of people take to social media to make these statements. It's very conflicting, and it causes a lot of problems, because then people come to me or other people in the community and ask, hey, I know someone with this illness or that illness, why this, why that, why not? And then you're having to try to explain, and it's very hard. Humans, we all have unhealthy habits, for sure. I'm not denying that, and I know it's not always easy to break away from these habits, but I think it clearly suggests there that there is a problem with how we see ourselves because of our chronic illness. We think that just because we have medication or whatever, we can just not care. And that's the problem. We have to care. We have to care about ourselves 24/7. And if we don't care about ourselves, no one else is gonna, unless you actually have a carer, in which case, then you're gonna have help. But it is something that is just, honestly, it does my head in. I don't understand why so many people work so hard to do something to then destroy it altogether. It's like the example I was saying the other day. Like, imagine that you are allergic to peanuts and you're on medication, but one day you decide, well, not one day, because I'm not talking about like one-offs, I'm talking about continuous behavior, and you decide to have a Snickers, maybe not every day, but every single week, even though it's going to trigger your own allergy. That's active harm towards yourself, and that's a type of self-harm we don't talk a lot about. But it comes with this vicious circle of how we treat ourselves when we have a chronic illness. We think that we need to fit into a certain mold, right? And hey, how are you doing? And we still need to act normal and do normal things and whatnot. But what do you want me to tell you, mate? If your illness is destroying your intestines and people around you are drinking 4 cans of Red Bull a day, it doesn't mean you have to do that just to look normal. In fact, you're kind of making yourself worse, and that's going to have a knock-on effect on your mental health and your general well-being, and it's going to make those medications that you fought so hard to get to work 3 times harder, which at the same time is going to cause so many internal problems. Like, honestly, it's a very vicious loop, and I generally don't know what else to say to people to break it, because, well, I guess part of the problem is that there is not much that I can do or that we can do from the outside to stop those damaging behaviors and to stop those behaviors of, like I said, self-harm. And I generally want you guys to understand that this is self-harm, because even though it doesn't leave physical, evidence, the damage still happens. It's still occurring inside, even though you may not have any actual output on your body, but it happens. And it's not just the fact that it causes self-harm, it just causes such a lack of respect for oneself. It's like if not even you can take your own illness seriously and your own medication seriously, how do you expect the rest of humanity to accept that you, who are already being looked down on, are actually worthwhile? It's a paradox. But yeah, people have to be tired of, for sure. Like, that's exactly it. People have to be tired of being sick and tired, and that's the thing. It just breaks my heart. It just breaks my heart, because it's so much work. I know how much work it is, because I'm not on any medication, so I know everything that I do, every life choice, every decision that I make in that regard is impacting my illness, and it's the way I manage my illness. So if I know the impact that has directly, and I know that if I start treating myself like crap and eating or drinking or doing things that are wrong for me, and that's going to have a negative effect, I can't imagine how that must be for people who actually have hardcore medication for it. Like, it's double the strength. So yeah, really, the main point of this conversation is, if you know somebody who is doing this to themselves, just obviously be tactful about it. I'm not saying stop people from doing what they want to do, each their own, your life is yours. That's not what I'm suggesting. But sometimes people don't realize they're doing this, like I said, because they want to pretend that they are normal, because they feel that by doing this they are in control of the situation. And that's great, but at some point you need to stop so you can recover from the trauma, so you can actually heal, and so you can move on. Otherwise, it's just gonna be a vicious circle, and it's never gonna end. So honestly, guys, if you know anybody with a chronic condition, with a mental health illness, with a disability, that are actively doing things despite of their medication, treatment, whatever, to crash into that and disturb their well-being or whatever, do take action. I'm not suggesting you berate them. I'm not suggesting you confront them very openly. I'm just suggesting that you open up a conversation, because they may not be aware, and you pointing it out from a completely empathetic point of view may actually help them realize they need to stop. Or it may come to the fact that they don't know that they're doing it and they actually need outside help, because it's hard. We cover ourselves in self-loathing all the time, and particularly when we're trying to pretend like we're normal, and then we end up developing these behaviors to sort of get in control of the situation. It's very hard because it kind of feels like losing face. So it takes a little bit of care and love for people to be able to move on past those things. So there you go. That's really what I wanted to talk about today. So I'm not really berating anyone, and I hope it doesn't come across as berating. I'm just saying that is toxic behavior towards yourself. You need to respect yourself. You deserve that respect. You really do. I know that society spends all the time telling you that that's not the case, but you are not doing yourself any favors by actually just pretending like it's not a thing, and just because you're on medication you can do whatever and it's not gonna matter because the meds are gonna come down to save you, because that's not the case. And like I said, medication, treatment, whatever you want, it's not the case. So just respect yourselves. It's step number one towards self-care, honestly. And respect yourselves, like I said, from a point of empathy. Assess why you do this stuff, and if you don't know, ask. I know it's not always easy for us to ask for help, but particularly not with subjects like this, but it's so very important, so very important. And I'm sorry if I'm coming across a bit agitated through this live, but this is honestly taken a toll on me. There's nothing worse than seeing the people that you're trying to help and that are going through the same thing than you, literally self-destroying. It's awful, and knowing that you can't do anything about it, or not much about it, because, well, you're in the same situation than them, right? So it takes that outside force to move things forward. So honestly, yeah, just hoping that this gets to the right people, and that we can all start moving forward and taking away some of these toxic behaviors, which, by the way, are not just relevant to the chronic illness community or the disability community. Like, anyone can be mistreating themselves in any variety of ways, but particularly for us, like I said, it becomes a matter of, it does the double damage, because that, if you're not taking yourself seriously, then no one else is going to outside. We have, particularly people with fibromyalgia, we already have problems with doctors or people understanding and believing that our condition is real. So by behaving in a way that we don't take it seriously either, we're damaging ourselves, and the destigmatization of everything we go through, which I appreciate is not probably what a lot of people think when they go through this stuff, obviously. But if you've gotten to that stage that you're trying to help others around you, and I know a lot of people in the chronic illness community do, because they care for each other and they know the struggle, just think about that. Think about the message that you're sending to those people that you're trying to help, because you are a role model, and people outside of our community need role models too. Otherwise, they can't learn on their own. We need to show them the way. So that's that, really. I'm sorry if this offends anyone. It's not supposed to be offensive. It's, like I said, legit. It's just frustration and desperation at seeing so many people hurt themselves in ways that they probably don't even think they're doing that. So please take care of yourselves. Please assess your decisions and assess whether you are taking yourself seriously and whether you are respecting yourself enough. Because until you do that, nobody else is gonna do it either. And it's a very sad reality. It's simple as that. And if you don't know how to get going, or you can't digest it or whatever, well, I'm always here and I'm always happy to help. So anyway, hope you all have a lovely Friday afternoon, and I'll see you next week on another Fibro Friday. Bye.